to our first ever Take Two podcast of Dish with the Mish. My name is Bill Jensen. I'm Bill the Billionaire Jensen, your host for this maiden voyage journey, joined here by the noble commish, Larry
Mhm.
Salisbury. Larry, some technical difficulties last week, but we're back for part two.
We had a rainy cloud delete all of our just sweet, sweet pod that we recorded. So yeah, second take. Very sad we lost that recording last week, but we're going to quickly recap. I think some of the things we hit on. I made some very bold bets last week, unfortunately, that will never come to life. But very excited to jump in what happened week one, waiver wire, some of the key injuries. We got it all.
Yeah, one thing I look back on that failed podcast and how right we were about so many things. I definitely wasn't talking shit on Chase's team that kicked my ass this week. Definitely wasn't high on my team. I knew it was going to be a rough week. So, I mean, we're almost like Nostradamus. It's this hindsight podcast are great coming in.
That's why both of our teams are so good now because we just know what was happening. I
Well,
will say though the one of the things I would like to cover real quick is the top. We did a contenders versus pretenders. I don't even need to say who the pretenders were. Now that we have a better pulse on it, but I was right on two of my top three. I'm not even going to say the names. Do you remember who my top three was?
I know Jesse, big high on Team Jesse, who won the kitty here this first week. Some great value on his team. If we look at it with some of those late round older receivers and Devontae and Stephon Diggs, some folks we forgot about,
Tried and true.
just balled out for Jesse, and his collection of Raiders and former Raiders seemed to do him very well week one.
He was my number one contender to win a championship. Granted, it's only through week one. I'm feeling very good about that pick. Really, what it boils down for him and the Colemans of the world, not lumping him in with Coleman, of course, but how does that midseason management look? Is he going to make any trades? Is he going to play waivers? He's got a good team now, but so early in the season.
Very interesting to see today, Jesse standing pat. No waiver claims, no action, sitting on those waiver dollars, just riding a hot team. It's a great feeling great feeling to have. I bet I wouldn't know, obviously, with the start that I've had this season.
I don't blame him for feeling good. I feel pretty good right now, as did everybody. I think that probably won. You just feel good no matter what. You either limped your way through or you're just loving your team right now. But that's the same thing that's going to get him a few weeks from now, several weeks down the road. Is if he stays, even if his record's decent, he can come playoff time and not be in good shape to make runs. So still like him as my favorite. Number two last week for me was Sakiyaki. We will sack you. He had a decent week, but ultimately Agatron came out on top of him. So that was my one miss. I still feel good about his team. His defense, unlike mine, let him down quite a bit. Whereas we both felt like we had defensive gaps coming into that matchup. So
The third team, I believe, was yourself. You were very happy with your team coming in.
I was very happy with my draft. Very happy.
Yeah. I also was very happy with your draft. Not mine. Hindsight, like I said, in the Farmer Pod, I may have been very high on my team, scoring 150 points the first week. Losing to the next lowest score it's devastating. There's nothing else to base it off of. You're looking at just nothing but duds all down your lineup. It's a real hard spot to be. Throw that together with the playoff fizzle
Yeah.
first round last year versus Jesse, and last 2 weeks of Wheels Up have been pretty tough on me. But it's a long season. I feel like I've started 0-1 before. I don't think I've ever had the worst score to start, but the comeback starts now. We're on to Cincinnati, as Bill Belichick would say.
Amen. On to week two. There was a little bit of sad sacking over the weekend. I feel like it's worth calling out. I think we nursed you back to health through some really kind words of affirmation. I think you're feeling good week two. I think your team's going to bounce back. I still like a lot of your pieces.
So much of this is draft, and the week one, you hope to see your team, have a week like you had, or like Jesse had, or Aga had, and I mean, Aga doing it without CMC and still
Mm-hmm.
fighting for the
Impressive.
kitty. Um, yeah, and then we talk about it every year. There's guys on your roster after you draft that you love right there that you're going to hate going into week two, and unfortunately for me, that was half my roster this year.
That's
Uh,
tough.
but holding on, didn't panic trade, didn't drop a lot of guys. I probably shouldn't tried, didn't blow a whole bunch of waiver dollars. We're going to try to nurse this back to health.
The billionaire's in fine shape. I know we're circle jerking each other so far on this pod, but yeah, our rivalry will come out a little bit more as these episodes carry on. So to recap, last once we did contenders versus pretenders. We did a recap of draft trends we found quite shocking. I think it's no surprise to anyone. We were shocked with Chase's draft, going 4 linebackers right in a row. We don't need to beat that to death. It looks like it was probably a bit of a mistake for him at this point, but a lot of time to recover. That Ernie Jones pick, Okereke laying an egg. But his Quans, Roquan, Aluquan, which we joked about, I thought about taking them too. Those guys carried the weight for him, probably led him to victory over the Eagle Ridge Eddies in week 1.
Well, I had a lot of very disparaging things to say about his offense last week, and just so everybody's clear, his
Fair,
offense did outscore mine this last week. So,
fair play.
I will eat the crow this week. But like the Eagles don't stay down long though.
No,
Eagles got to fly.
Eagles got to
The
fly.
Eddies are coming back. Eddie's coming back.
The TH Cave Stadium, which has become a thing of lore, I think, in the greater Spokane area. A lot of wildfires out there, but even that can't stop you. I don't think you've ever once exited your house during a mass crisis when they told you to leave. Is that true?
Yeah, it's true. We kind of held stuff. There's no smoke, no fire, no mandatory evacuations have been ignored, but you
Mm.
know,
Eddies
uh,
fly high.
Eddies fly high, especially at night, right before bed.
I can exactly. I can picture you out there with your garden hose, just spraying down little embers as they trickle down to your backyard.
Just
Uh,
don't need them.
so for key injuries, we're going to move on to that for week 1. I think there were some significant injuries week 1. The first one, which I would love to talk about, Jordan Love, couldn't have happened to a better or worse team, depending on how you look at it in the host and post. Really is one big hang up the last couple of years. And I think the predominant reason, besides maybe AGA being either high AGA or low AGA, is the fact that injuries happen and you can't predict them. They're out of your control. He loves to be in control. Thoughts on Jordan Love going down week 1?
Jordan Love, very, very high. The Mish I know was very, very high. I was very
Oh,
shocked when he got socked during the draft
mm,
with the Jordan Love. Uh, Pocket Agent's been hit hard early with injuries and poor performance. So, the Amaron St. Brown laying an egg, Mark Andrews laying an
that one
egg,
hurt.
uh, Brandon Ayuk not having a great game, Smith and Jigma. He really kind of rode Kenny Walker and Rasheed Rice last week. So
Yep.
the Jordan Love injury, not good. Sounds like he's only going to be out a few weeks, so he should have a very, very nice quarterback back. Curious to see how the Trevor Lawrence experience goes. He's not lived up to hype in these last few years.
Mm-mm.
We'll see if he can put one together against Cleveland this week. Tough defense, though.
Another injury worth noting on the pocket agents is K9, who had a great opening week for the Seahawks versus those lowly Broncos. Hopefully he's back this week. I have a share of him myself in the Host and Post Yahoo League, where Bill Cosby sleepers were on fire. We don't need to talk about that too much, but put up 280 some odd points in that league. That is nothing to shake your fist at. That's worth at least 300 in ours. Very happy, hoping to get K9 back, mostly for myself, but Host could use a win too.
Yeah, coming back after the team he drafted last year finished dead last in this season. For
Oof.
Grizz.
Mm-hmm.
Host needs a win. Host needs a win, and otherwise he just goes into full basketball mode, and this team will just be neglected.
Yeah, not only is he running the LLBL, of which we're both a part of, both the Salty
Yep.
Slam and the Eagle Ridge Eddies national brands at this point, national franchises. Slam, reigning champion of his inaugural year in his league. He also recently joined another 30-team fantasy basketball league. I don't know how this guy has the time on his hands to be a part of all that with all the analysis, the level of knowledge you have to have about NBA contracts. Like the dude just jays off to it, but he's going to have to pay attention to football a little bit. His ego's on the line here, so.
Yeah, especially his linebacker hubris. I'd hate to see that come back and bite him this year.
Would as well. Rounding out the key injuries from week 1, CMC, obviously the probably the biggest storyline from week one next to Jordan Love is the fact that they hid his Achilles tendonitis. You know they did. Jordan Mason said he was told Friday that he'd play. I heard the coach speak afterwards. I don't believe it. I think Shanahan's playing games over there. But Jordan Mason looking great right now. Other one to go down, Puka Nakua. That's an ouch. He fell in the draft. Was it to Towner's team? Who has Puka?
Towner's team.
Towner's
Yeah.
team. Yeah. So big blow to him. And then Roma Dunze, not necessarily a contributor week one, anyways, but tough to get that on Big Show's bench depth. Hurt right away. Sounds like he's got an MCL sprain, so he might land on IR. I haven't heard officially yet.
It sounds like he's week to week is the latest on that. I do want to call out. We did have some league shenanigans. I might want to say a little bit here of people picking up people early. So just like his real life 49ers, Nasty Nate, also
Mm,
a dirty, dirty cheater,
the
just like his
nastiest.
Niners.
I'm the commissioner. I set up the rules. I didn't realize Fantrax didn't come out of the gate with like a standard waiver wire system that we get in other leagues. I'm gonna go ahead and take 12% of the blame. I'm going to give him the other 88%, being that he effed everything up. He sent Brian into an early tailspin this week, wherein he contacted Fantrax support. You saw the blow by blow. He was texting us in our text thread, just freaking out. The IT workers in India were working overtime on him Monday. So I'm glad that everything worked out. Waivers went through 9 a.m. today. Everything worked out.
We had some mid-morning bid creeps going on up until the last minute today,
I didn't
and
hate it. I
I
kind of
didn't hate
like
it
the
either
9
because we were kind
a.m.
of around each other. It was like, oh, it was interesting. Like
So we
this,
put it out there. Everybody's comfortable with the midnight one. Now that we have $0 waivers, another pro of Fantrax. I know there's some haters out there right now. Give it a couple more weeks. I worked out the commish kinks. In terms of the interface on the app, it's almost identical to what you can do on the desktop. I'm a fan. I've used it a little bit longer. I think people get used to it. But with that said, I think August freak out is 100% just it's just him. He hasn't
it's
given it enough try yet.
we have a little issue with the NSIs are not super happy with the move to fan tracks.
Yeah.
They're creatures of habits. They don't like to break out too much. They, finding ways to complain. And this is all through August, so I haven't heard any complaints from the other NSIs.
I
Just
haven't
Mr. Aga.
either, but they do, whether they know it or not, filter up comments through Aga, which he takes full
Yes.
credit for. Um, yeah, we joked about it, but the NSI's longtime power in this league. I'm hoping that this change just overwhelms them just long enough to keep them down for half a year. I'm not looking to knock the NSI's out of the playoffs or anything like that, but they've had a lot of success, and I was a little worried about one of them getting a solo title. Only Brian of the three. Oh, excuse me, Chase has one too. But
Chase
Towner,
has one too.
surprisingly, despite his success, has not had a solo title. So if this slows him down just a little bit, I've done my job.
Towner, last 10 years, most wins in the league.
Oh, incredible. Great owner, great part of the league, really great part of Spokane, as we're talking about LT real estate. See their signs everywhere. Made a joke on his team name here about being the slumlord. That's pure jealousy. He's a very successful man.
Everybody loves Towner. Everywhere you go, he's hanging out with Zags players, flying to France for Killian Tilly's wedding, and
Yeah, what the
like
hell?
just
He didn't even brag about that.
what a life he's living right now. And Brian just has the lottery ticket of a brother-in-law. It sounds like so.
Yes, he does. No one reacts worse to getting free things than Brian Oguk because it inconveniences him to have to go somewhere. Poor Towner, just bleeding money on the guy, and I'm sure he's thankful in person, but to us, just sounds like it's a nuisance.
It just you throw him off his routine. It's tough going once you get Og off his routine. And we've thrown a lot of changes at him this year. He's handled the CMC loss. He comes out with a victory anyways.
True.
I mean, he is a power player. He is, even though his championship has an asterisk, he is still a champion in this league.
As noted by Steve, your boy, Steve Ranazizi in this year's draft lottery.
Yeah.
So week one surprises. Let's kind of dig into the surprise from week one. I'm just going to lead this off, and it really was maybe a 6, even a 7 cents that I had Zach Bond on my team. This morning, listening to one of my favorite IDP podcasts, the man literally says it's wheels up on Zach Bond this year. He's going to have a great year. They're all in on him. Wheels up. Zach Bond, two things I love to hear in tandem and are both a big part of the Slam franchise. The Slam Chise.
I feel like you got to say it right. It's got to be all caps. It's got to be Bond. Like
Shake your
he
bonbons.
just shake the bonbons, just power. The guy was everywhere, flying across the Brazilian landscape, tackling
Oh,
everybody, injuring Jordan Love. What can he do? Like the guy's everywhere.
okay. First of all, he did not injure Jordan Love. That was another individual. He did get that last sack on fat face Malik Willis. I have never seen a fatter face in a helmet than Malik Willis in that Green Bay Packers helmet. Looked like a deer in the headlights, and tiny eyes, big forehead, not a good combo under the face mask.
Not a good quarterback either. Yeah, I'd say stock on all Green Bay receivers are down here in these next couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, other than maybe Jaden Reed, who Chase left on his bench. I mean, thankfully he left on
Ooh,
his bench last week.
we also talked about this. Another really unfortunate aspect of our pod being lost is that I called that out. We called that out. He's on his
We
bench.
did.
What is he doing on your bench? How do you listen to that?
How are you putting Jordan or Gus Edwards in and ahead of him? And well, I mean, it wouldn't have mattered. I mean, he would have scored more points. I would have been.
He won.
He won. He won. He's got a victory. His offense. I think Jaden Reed might have actually outscored my entire offense last week, but
We could
I'm
do
not.
the quick math on that. I mean, it might be close. Shaden Reed had, ooh, what did he have on his bench? He was also one of my week one surprises. Granted, he's trending down a little bit with the quarterback situation. 44 points. Bill had 71 and a half offensive points last week. He scored well over half of your points just with the one individual on his bench and still somehow eked it out.
And he left another J.K. Dobbins on his bench too. I mean,
Yep.
uh, poor management on Chase's part, but wow, still got the win. Lucky he ran into an absolute pillow fighter in the Eddies and just got a little th and fell asleep for the game apparently. So
Yeah, that happens to the Eddies. Any other week one surprises that stand out to you? I saw Eric Kendricks really looked great. I'm kind of thinking through IDP right now just because we kind of knew it was a down week for offense. I don't think any of that really is going to hold up. Nobody really needs to hit the panic button unless maybe you have a wide receiver in Green Bay. But beyond that, the IDP guys that stood out to me, Eric Kendricks and Julian Love were two names that really popped off. Neither one of them are on the Slam Chise, but was happy for IDP purposes to see a DB getting out there and looks like he could be a season long player for the DMVP.
yeah, I think you're right. Defense well ahead of offense here. Week one is what it looks like. No passers over 300 yards. Only two had more than two touchdown passes. Uh, Tight ends really struggled, and with the new format, tight ends went early with us this year. I think only Kyle Pitts of the top 12 had a touchdown this week. I mean, obviously Isaiah Likely, but on waivers.
Tough week for tight ends.
Tough weeks, and when Kyle Pitts is the only top 12 tight end to score a touchdown, things are off to a rocky start.
It is.
Uh, you talked about some surprises on offense, some surprises on the negative side for me. Kirk Cousins didn't look great in Atlanta.
Washed.
Just doesn't look like he's recovering. Aaron Rodgers still has the arm talent. He's not moving at all. Like he's
Mm-mm.
just a sitting duck back there. And
Did you
you
notice
saw,
he threw everything to the left side of the field? Did he look at the right side of the field one time?
I heard that this morning. He didn't throw one time to the right side. Everything was to the left side. So I don't know if that's just the corner was shutting things down on that side, or he wasn't looking that way. First reads were always left, but a lot of checks downs to Brees. Uh, One great drive for Garrett Wilson, and then just dried up.
Yep.
And then old reliable Alan Lazard just vulturing a couple touchdowns late, and
Yep. Waiver wire darling this week, Alan Lazard,
Alan Lazard is
which we'll get
still.
into in a minute. I would love to cover the first week of waiver wire, which is by far always the most exciting. Some dollars spent this week, but any other week one surprise? I know Singleton was out there. He had a nice IDP performance. He had a pick, I believe. Might have had. I don't know if he dipped into double-digit tackles, but he was close. He just looked like the LB1 that I think everybody thought he was going to be, along with the Quans.
And he, his running mate Cody Barton only playing 25, 26%
Oof,
snaps,
rough.
just brutal. And he looked terrible out there too. He didn't pass the eye test. I can see why he wasn't playing much. Uh, yeah, Singleton, we used to call him the Singleton speed bump. That guy's just everywhere though. He is
Hmm.
flying around. He's around the ball all the time. It's one of those things you love to watch when you have a player like that. They're always around the ball. I feel like every time I have a linebacker I'm trying to watch on Monday Night Football, it's like, where is the guy? Where's my guy even at? He's not even around the play. So,
Yep. Yep. Agreed.
uh, there were some big scores on the waiver wire this week. Not a lot. I don't know if it's sustainable or where they go. I don't think you can count on a defensive back in 3 sacks in a game from a nickel, going
No.
forward. Uh, but I think we'll go through the waiver wires here, and we'll talk about some of the big spenders and kind of some of the players that went. But there wasn't a lot of elite talent in my eyes where I was really like, hey, this is somebody I really want to dump 50-60% of my fab budget on going forward on week one. I didn't see a Puka or Kyron Williams on there this year like we have in years past, or even a defensive player that's really going to kind of set the stage and really set your defense up going forward for the rest of the year. So,
Yep.
uh, let's talk waiver wire, Larry. So, what were some of the bigger spends and some of the bigger surprises in your book?
Well, first of all, I want to give our league a little bit of credit because there are no Kyrens or Pukas yet. There could be some that are out there, but a lot of those guys that you could nudge into that are on the bench or are flex options for league members. There are a lot of guys out there, and we're a deep league, that I don't think other teams would have thought about drafting and hanging on. Jameson Williams out there, current WR4, was very big on him. You were also very big on him, and I was just beside myself in the draft that you were letting him slip. I was almost going to let you have him. I scooped him up. So happy I did.
Great scoop up. Really looks good week one. Being the primary target for Jared Goff this last week. You saw
It won't sustain,
you,
but I'm
you saw
hopeful that
Sun
he's usable.
God and Laporta both
Hmm.
kind of take a back seat. So
They sure did.
very interesting to see. But yeah, when looking at the top waiver wire picks on all the fantasy sites, it's funny to go down and be like, oh God, somebody already owns them in our league. Somebody already owns them in our league. Somebody already owns them. Like, it
Savvy,
gets a little thin. Gets a little
savvy
thin. We
vets.
do it. And in a 14 team league, there's just not a lot out there.
Nope. I think week one was a big learning week for IDP. You had your for every Zach Bond, there was a KJ Britt, right? I'm not just naming them because it's my team and your team, but it doesn't hurt. Uh, Great learning week for IDP week one, which is really how it is every year. And then offense just had a down week. I think we could chalk it up to that. On the waiver wire, biggest shock is Agatron getting DeMarvion Overshown over Chase. I mean, Chase is heavy defense. And maybe I didn't expect him to chase after him that much, but multiple $30 bids out there for Overshown. Agatron lands him at 57. He better hope that's like his starting linebacker for the rest of the year. It's a lot of money.
At 57, $20 more than anybody else threw out there. So, yeah, to me,
Overbid.
it's a big overpay. Yeah, big overbid. The other surprise to me was Big Show going all in on Isaiah Likely and
Mm-hmm.
beating out someone like Chase or Nate, who really kind of had that need at tight end. Big Show just sneaking in there and slipping in. What do you get him for? 37? Somewhere around there?
47. Do you think the
47.
waiver, the 9 a.m. waiver creep might have played a role in that? Oh, we got Coach Peston looking in on the pod. Maybe we'll get him in on one of these episodes. But 47 on Isaiah Likely, I kind of felt like that's more or less what he was going to go for. I don't know currently what the overpay was on that, but Big Show gets a guy that looks like he's heavily involved in the offense. Some people are saying Andrews looks washed, another host and post player. Other people are saying the Chiefs really dialed in on him. I don't know what to make out of it, but I do remember him catching a ball and instantly face planting with nobody else around him. So could have been the field, might have just been him.
Going back and watching a little bit, he was blanketed pretty hard. It feels like the Chiefs were like, this is Kansas City, or Baltimore, not a ton of wide receiver depth out there.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing them really like Mark Andrews isn't going to beat us, and
Yep.
letting Zay Flowers just catch everything underneath, and what do you have, 70 catches for 24 yards, something like that.
Felt like he's a big part of the game. The stats at the end did not show that. I could have sworn he had more than 10 targets too, but I believe that's what he ended up with. Agatron also lands to Marcus Robinson, a busy spending week for Agatron week one. No surprise there. I think he's down to $37 for the rest of the year. We do, over the last couple years, owners have become accustomed to adding in waiver dollars as part of their trades. You cannot do that carte blanche in fan tracks. It's going to have to be the old way. You're going to have to let me know if it's part of it, and then I'll go add or remove budget as needed. Would have been cool if that was an option, but I've looked through it, haven't seen the ability to add waiver dollars onto a trade in terms of interfacing with the app. So there's a Colby Parkinson pickup out there for the Rams. Nate ends up getting him, drops Taysom Hill. I'm actually not familiar with Colby Parkinson. My pants are down a little bit. Don't know who he is. I think he's a tight end, I guess. Did he look
Former,
pretty good?
yeah, looked pretty good. Former Seahawk with
Really?
yeah, Seahawk just signed a free agent with the Rams. Pretty good contract with the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Cody Parkinson, good receiver, and he's going to take that tight end role, that starting role, while the Rams. Why is the name escaping me right now? Rams
Oh, you
tight
talking about
ends.
the Hig Beast?
The Higbeast. There he is.
Uh-huh.
Tyler
Tyler
Higbee's
Higby.
out. He's out for about half the year. I think he's on IR. So
Yep.
Kobe Parkinson looks like he had a role this last week when the ball wasn't going to Cooper Cup. It was going to Cody Park. Cody or
Wow.
Kobe? Cody.
Colby. Yeah,
Kobe.
Colby. Tough name to say. A couple other
Kobe.
guys to go. DBs were kind of hot this week. I think that's another position where easy one to go fill. The fact that we have to mandatory two DBs now does deplete the field a little bit from pickups, but Quentin Lake goes for 24. My boy Tony Adams goes for $11. There was a few other bids there, and then I believe Tyler Nubin had a few bids on him as well. I don't even know if I'm saying his name right, but Tyler Nubin for the Giants went $13 to the Riverbend Overboy. Oh, still a great name, River Bend Overboys.
A lot of DBs. As somebody that needed DB, it was really hard to see all these guys fly off the board. I had some bids out there, but I got to learn to stop being cheap, especially week one. I missed out on a lot of folks, players I wanted. Ended up spending three waiver dollars total, fab dollars, and still got five players with the zero bids and getting some guys that I think can step in and help, but no big anchors on my free agent pickups. I know you were pretty happy to get Tony Adams. A lot of interest in Tony Adams. I think
60 some odd percent box snaps in week one. I have a great follow on Twitter. He breaks it down for all the kind of like situations we're trying to figure out for IDP. So I was very excited to see that.
yeah, I was happy to get a couple guys for free, and Nick Cross, who was kind of flying around everywhere for Indy, and
Alongside my guy, Julian Blackman.
Julian Blackman. He was a member of the Eagle Ridge Eddies last year in our what should have been a championship run.
The
Very solid
Dynamo.
player.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very, very happy to have him on the team. Quay Martin, somebody I picked up for free, who is another guy getting a lot of box snaps in Washington, kind of taking over that role. So I was happy to get him for actually relatively cheap. I'd say zero is relatively cheap.
Another Quay, not
Yeah,
Crybaby Quay.
not Crybaby Quay.
Crybaby Quay.
Is it
Yeah.
Quay or Quan? It might be Quan.
Oh,
Quan Martin. Quan Martin.
okay.
Not
Well,
Jartavius, as it says on here.
rounding out the waiver wire pickups of the week, Alexander Madison to the Countertop Aga Bottom Chase led franchise for $13. We had Jalen McMillan, who I believe is a Husky, going to the Pocket Agents for $11. Didn't he already have him on his team? I'm pretty sure he drafted him.
I think that might have been Sleeper.
Okay. All right. We'll give him a pass there. You're right. It was Sleeper. And then Jeff Wilson, $9, looks very usable this week. Sounds like Mostert's already been ruled out. Hoping my boy Achan can go. But if not, Jeff Wilson, $9 to chase is a good, like, 1 week flyer. I mean, that's probably like an adequate amount. I think the rule is you want to use like X amount of your budget within the first few weeks for fab. But if you're like Hef, his tried and true method is holding on that late and picking up some nice guys for the playoff run. So I see the merit in both sides of that.
It's been a very big thing for Hef over the years. I think Nate also held on to waivers one of his championship runs and picked up a couple guys right at the end, some backups. People got hurt, and he rode them to the championship uh, a few years back. So
Mm-hmm.
the strategy both ways. Last year Aga gets Puka with what we all assume is a huge overspend, and ended up being a super valuable player all year, and first second round pick in most drafts this year.
Yep.
So ways to go either way. It's just a matter of preference. And I hate to be out. I don't like to be like knowing I have no chance at a player if somebody gets hurt. I like to make sure I have a little bit in reserves. But weeks like this, it hurts you. When Chases and Agas are getting out there and really spending early.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone goes down later, you never know. Uh, the one thing I want to call out, Larry, is a
Mhm.
absolute lack of trades so far in the league. I mean, we're into week 2.
I
We
think
haven't had a trade
Yeah,
of
I think the
players yet.
interface could be playing a role in that. People are a little confused by the three different trade buttons you have on the home screen. It does take you through a tutorial, actually. There's a big fat trade button up top. So if you've already done it, that one's disappeared. But multiple ways to make a trade. And as I've gone through it, it's actually, I know, hot take, more user friendly than ESPN. You can interact with teams on the fly. You can go back and trade around the players you're trying to sub out or enter into the trade. I actually like it, but it could just be the fact that week 1 was a little bit down. People are still high on guys. I'm not too worried about it. I know the trades will probably pick up here pretty quick. I've already had a couple offers for Jameson Williams today. So if anybody else wants to come knocking, I'm 7-Eleven. I'm always open. I've
You
just been
did put it
notified.
out there. You
Yeah,
did put it out there for
I put it
everybody.
out there. I've been notified that unless we upgrade to Zoom Pro, we have 8 minutes left on this podcast. So I would
Okay.
love it if you do a segment I hadn't even talked about, and just I want your quick hitters, and we're going to go through all, what is it, 7 matchups for next week, and I just want you to say who your favorite is for that week. So the first one on
So,
my screen, leading off, is the Salty Slam versus Countertop Aga Bottom Chaselet franchise. Who do you like in week 2?
uh, as much as I hate to give credit to my rival, I think the Slam have a better team. Uh, I think Chase got lucky he faced me last week. I don't love his build still. I'm
Most
still
really
talking
did.
shit. Uh, even though he beat me last week and he beat me bad, bad.
He's got a very young build on offense, a very hardy build on defense. We'll see how it pays off. The other thing worth calling out here, projections, fan tracks, not great, but I do kind of love the fact that just twists the knife a little bit, mainly on Brian, but maybe the inbreds too. Just they love to jay off to projections, and this is preventing that, and is really, I would love it no projections, if I'm being honest. I would love to see that flat. You just go into the week and see what's up. I mean, it might be useful for
You're
newer
a
players, but not
monster.
us.
You're a
So
monster.
I know.
You're a monster.
Matchup number 2, we have Agatron, current third place, I believe, in the standings, versus the Valley Old Goats in half, who might be in fourth place if I go take a look here. They both had very good week 1 performances. Who do you like in week 2?
Both 1-1. With CMC being out, number 1 overall pick. Sounds like it's going to be not just this week; it could be multiple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna lean towards the old goat here.
He's got Joe Mixon, who is, by the way, the best part of what was the Cincinnati offense. Obviously, he had a great week in a dynamo offense down in Houston. I'm very excited to see him down there this year. And he's got a solid defense, too. I like that pick as well. How about the Drummond Dongers, Lord Show, versus the Little Ass Boys, my number 1 pick on the year in Jesse?
Little Ass Boys has a great offense. Got really great depth overall.
Really good.
The Tua Tyreek combo really tough to beat. You know, Dongers not a bad team. I like a lot of the pieces there. He's off to a
Mm-hmm.
good start. Gets to plug in Jordan Mason this week just to drive that knife into Agatron's back. His heavy defensive line. I got to give the edge to Little Ass Boys though, just because their defense I like a little bit better than what the Dongers are throwing out there.
The fact that he put that offense together, Tua, Josh Jacobs, Tyreek, Kittle, Devontae, Diggs, Aaron Jones, a couple names in there that maybe slid as the draft came up, but ultimately, how do you get that offense with that defense? That's really was my takeaway out of the draft. Was his balance is incredible, while just having a standard draft. Didn't have any extra picks anywhere, but was able to land good talent everywhere he went, and might have had a Raider affiliation at one point too. So like triple win for the LABs.
Yeah, LAB's team to beat so far early in the season.
Great logo too. I think we talked about that a lot on last week's episode, but fantastic logo.
And
Marching
on the
on.
defense, one of my favorites, Bobby Spills. Just
Oh
guys
yeah,
everywhere. Oh,
he's he's a guy. Tough one here, and I'm actually going to make this prediction on your behalf since you're involved here. It's the Eagle
oh,
Ridge Eddies versus the Otis Orchards IT department in Rimo. As I'm looking through these teams, Zach has some spicy guys that were pretty decent week 1. I like the fact that you subbed in Ford. Think he's usable right away. Your faith in Motor, very confusing to me, Devin Singletary, but I hope it pays off for you. Just looking at it, heads up, projections aside, I'm going to give the Eddies a slight advantage here. I really like the bounce back for Kyler and Trey this week. Nice little stack. I think JT gets a nice matchup versus the Packers where they won't have a ton of offense going. And Justin Jefferson, they're going to have to throw the ball all day with San Francisco. So like the matchups, I think it's slightly in your favor.
I hope so. 0-2 is a place I would hate to start.
It's dark hole.
Need to get. I need some positives. Be traveling this week, so won't be able to watch too much on Sunday. I'll be flying home from Oklahoma, so hopefully come back to some pleasant surprises for me. I'm not as confident in my team right now, but it's only week one. You see what happens.
Agreed. Moving on to Grizz, the much maligned Morningside Muff Divers, very alliterative, versus We Will Sack You, which was one of my three favorite teams coming out of it. Given how week one went, who do you like in this matchup?
Sock's got a couple guys I really like on his team, and a couple guys that didn't play last week, and Brian Robinson. I think David Montgomery looked fantastic as well. Uh,
Love David Montgomery.
tight end's a little weak. I think Jamar Chase has to bounce back a little bit, right? And Anthony Richardson was just winging balls. Not super accurate, but hit on three of them. Gotta like the boomer bust there. Buff Divers, obviously great stack with Lamar and Bijan. I've been fading Olave all summer. He wasn't one of my guys this year. He's one of my anti guys. Even though David Carr looked great, they were way ahead. Never really looked at Olave. I think he had one catch, maybe. It wasn't very strong. I'm gonna give Sock the slight edge on this one.
Yeah, his real big hole is defense, but that's the preferred side of the ball to have some gaps in as we're working through free agency. Him and I did talk trades, offense for defense today, so he's already thinking ahead. Love his mindset heading into the season. Great offense, and I think he'll patchwork that defense. We have the Pocket Agents versus Indian Trail Slumlords, two perennial powerhouses. Who do you like in this matchup?
I think Pocket Agent's dealing with some injuries right now that are going to put him back. If you're relying on Trevor Lawrence to kind of lead you away from the quarterback, I mean, just that matchup alone versus Jalen Hurts, I like the Slumlords quite a bit in this one. Offense, defense, I think both sides have a little bit of advantage going into this matchup.
Okay. And our last matchup of the week, we have the River Bend Over Boys versus Mrs. Doubtfire, two of the best logos in the league. Very proud of those ones. Who do you like coming to this matchup? Are they both 1-0? I don't recall how Kuhn ended last week, but
he did lose. The champ did take a loss, did take an L. Nate
ouch.
did.
Nate won.
Does take a win. Yep, Nate did take the win. Only real hole I see on Nate's team is at tight end, and the Colby Parkinson we talked about earlier. A lot of underperformers for Doubtfire week one. This is a tough one. This is probably my closest one. Coin toss. I'm looking at offense. I'm looking at defense. I think the defense, I'm going to go with Doubtfire just slightly over the over boys.
Two-time champions, like both teams, great franchises, powerful owners. I do wonder, just looking at the lineup, how long Ivan Pace is going to stay in the Overboys lineup. If you had listened to real IDP advice, Blake Cashman was the guy coming in the league, and Pace only getting 50 to 60% of the snaps was concerning. Still love his big playability, but I don't think we see him in Nate's starting lineup for very much longer if those snaps hold.
Yeah, I think a lot of things to look at, though. It was like week 4 of the preseason, I would say. I think there was a lot of rotations. I think some of these hoping some of these 50, 60% get to higher 70, 80% going into week 2 here.
All right, we are on to week 2. That is the end of our first perennial episode. Any parting comments here as our recording wanes?
As our recording wanes, wish we would have had the same the first one go out. Happy didn't. See how this one goes. A lot of fun recording here with you and talking football.
Amen. Go Slam.